All right, let's go ahead and get started. Can someone please close the door to the committee room, please? Thank you so much. Oh my God, this is insane. All right, well, welcome everybody to the Wednesday, December 14th, 2022 meeting of the Finance Executive Committee. I'm Councilmember Alex Wan. I'm chair of the committee. I'm joined by my colleagues to my far right, Keisha Shawn Waits, to my immediate right, Howard Shook, who serves as vice chair, to my left, Jason Winston, and to his left, Michael Julian Bond. With that, we constitute a quorum. This meeting is now officially called to order. Before we get started, I have a couple of things. Number one is I want to wish Jason Winston a happy birthday, first of all. So happy birthday.
How old?
41 years old, 41 years young. Wow, that's amazing. Second is I hope the administration is listening, and I've sent a word over to our council director as well. I mean, the notion of these loud events in the atrium during Finance Executive Committee is really disruptive. So I hope someone will hear that and respond sometime during this meeting. Mr.
No,
Shook.
and I'm going to chime in here because I've been around here a minute. I mean, back in the day, Finance Executive Committee actually meant something. It was not just another activity that took place here. So I don't know what we're considered now, but it's entirely disrespectful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We've also been joined by Councilmember Jason Dozier. So with that, this meeting is now officially called to order. We're going to go ahead and jump right into the agenda. First item is adoption of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adopted by Shook, seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. We'll get you. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The agenda is adopted. Next item is approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
By Shook, seconded by Winston. Birthday boy. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
I have 5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. That item minutes are approved. Yeah, okay. All right, 6 yeas, sorry. Next item is public comment. Actually, before we do that, is Mr. Brand in the audience yet? No, okay. All right, let's go ahead and move on to public comment. I just want to remind everybody that we have, the way our public comment works in Finance Executive is you have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you. You'll see a clock on the screens behind us. As that winds down to 0, I'll ask that you wrap your comments up. If you have written comments that you don't finish, feel free to leave that with us, and our staff can make sure it gets distributed to all council members. All right, with that, first up is Prophet Curtis Martin Hairston.
Donald, give me his 3 minutes.
All right, so as we discussed in our meeting last time, I understand. Let me finish. So in Finance Executive, we do not do the deferring of minutes from person to person. So it's just a 3 minute straight up per person. So that's just that is how we conduct public comment in Finance Executive Committee.
Okay, we're gonna pray for you. Okay, yeah. All right. God is
joining someone else.
God is good. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna let God do the speaking. I'm just gonna open my mouth. Now, again, I'm walking past girls, ladies that are defecating on themselves out here, homeless in your streets, in our streets, and we're begging y'all, City Council, Governor, Mayor, City, Fulton County, to get these people off the street. Again, now, the fact of the matter that we have the mayor that said he has $5.5 million for rescue homeless people, if this council approves it. I'm pretty sure y'all gonna approve that, right? Now, like I said, I'm just getting started. I just got off the phone to let you know it's live with some people in the government's mansion, or what we call government's office. Now, Don't think this guy standing before you is not an intelligent person. I've thought about running for city council, but then I don't know if I want to be looked at it as someone that's corrupt by my peers. But I'm saying again that I'm walking past girls that want to commit suicide because they're homeless and don't feel like they're wanted by their own people. I'm walking past girls that's prostituting to feed themselves. I'm walking past veterans that feel as though their country have let them down when they serve this country and they're living out there homeless. Homeless is not mental health. Homeless is not just people on drugs. I got fired off a job here. I got fired off of 3 jobs here in the last 3 months. I got fired from Omni Hotel right down the street. I got fired from Home 2 sites. Now they hiring Mexicans and foreigners and firing African Americans. Now, I beg the question that I served this country. My grandfather served this country. My daddy served this country in the armed forces. But we have fought for this country for all our lives, 500 years of slavery, and I'm getting fired off of jobs. 500 years of slavery, and black men and women are getting fired off of jobs for everything that everybody else is doing. But what creates homelessness? No job, no finances. What creates homelessness? No job, no finances. But you're firing black men and women for coming in 5 minutes late when everybody else is coming in 20 minutes late. When I say everybody else, I mean foreigners, and I mean Mexicans, I mean Asians, and I mean everybody else. So is that 3 minutes of that fast? Wow, man, we're going to have to change that.
All right, thank you, sir. Next up is Paul McDulge. Paul McDulge. All right, thank you. Is Mr. McDulge here? All right, next up, Carolyn Dabney. Is Carolyn Dabney here? This is how we've done it all year, and so it's not a new thing.
But I want to ask you this, Councilman, because I understand that you're going to be the chair in 2023. It's kind of a slippery slope as far as infringing upon freedom of speech, because this young lady that I brought down here want to give her minutes to me, right? And if that's your standing as the chairperson, but I just urge the rest of you members to outvote that, because this is the only chair. This is the most important
All right.
chair in the city,
I
Mr.
understand.
Warren.
So
The finance is the most
you are
important.
going to have, Ms. Robinson, you're going to have your time to speak.
I'm not
All
trying
right,
to disrespect
you're
you,
going to
but
have your time to speak, and you also know that by our procedures, that Committee on Council is the committee whereby if you wanted to change council committee operations, that really is the committee to take it up with, because they could compose. So you are on the list, but there are 2 people ahead of you, so let me call their names first. If Carolyn Dabney would like to come up and speak for 3 minutes, by all means, that she gets her 3 minutes to express her exercise her freedom of expression.
She's a senior, and she wanted to year her time because she can't express what she needs to say.
I'm gonna keep going then. So Gwen Webb, Miss Webb, would you like to come up to the podium and speak? Good afternoon.
I just feel like it's not right to have the homeless just out like that, Maybe we can do something for them. Keep them from sitting out using the bathroom all over the street, all over the cell. Do something for them. That's all I got to say.
All right. Thank you. We appreciate that, your comments. All right, DeJuan Robinson, you have 3 minutes, and the clock will be up on the screens.
Council, I don't want to use my time talking about this. With all due respect, I think we got to exercise our right to outvote that, because this can't be the only council committee that allow that, because this is the most important. When you're dealing with finance, is the most important, and we can't do that. I mean, finance is a bunch of professionals on here that we need to come down here to speak to you guys, to listen to the matters when people have an issue and trying to get funding and understand that. And you can't do those things in 3 minutes. So I just ask for you to consider that in the new year, because we can't have the most important. Full council allow it. That's when all of you guys are there. So this committee should allow it. So first I wanted to say congratulations to all of you, Mr. Winston, Lillian and Mr. Doge and the new administration for a wonderful job that I think you guys have done in your first year with on-the-job training. I think you guys have done a wonderful job. Regardless if I do come down here and speak my issues, I do believe that you guys deserve an A, because it's not an easy job. So you guys in administration do deserve praises for all that you do. You guys go above and beyond. I know you guys do. Nobody get it all right. So, so the main thing is about how we're distributing this money in the city is still my main focus, because we are giving the money to the same bad actors that we've been giving it to for decades. And in the new year, we plan on being down here, but we need to change this rule right here for 3 minutes, because there's a lot going on that you guys are not aware of. And we need people down here that's trying to get you the information, and I can't give you that in 3 minutes. And you guys are public servants, and you should adhere to the public if they're asking you to adjust that and allow the public to donate that time. That's only fair. These are the same people that vote for you. These are the same people. These are the same seniors that vote for you, and you're going to deny them to let somebody to speak for them. So there's different things that we do, like this group in one of the senior towers that we do. Out of pocket, we take them to the casino once a year. They come up with $25. We donate the other $25. And we're just asking for the city to help in some of the, help facilitate some of the efforts that we're doing out in the public, because these are our seniors that we're trying to help with quality of life, trying to get rid of depression, trying to get them out of the high rise and get them to do different things, because I mean, the city just doesn't offer much to do for our senior or our youth. And so you guys have a great Christmas and a great New Year. I look forward to seeing you guys in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Next up is Ron Shakir.
Ron Shakir, Southwest Atlanta. Atlanta's known for a lot of things. This is the South. It has a very, very bad history in America for certain citizens, like no other citizens, who came here on ships snatched from their mothers and their fathers. And the trip was long. And they suffered from sun up to sundown, treated like animals. Some of them sit here now. Their relatives, the connection, that linkage to that terrible time. Throughout this city, urban cities, African Americans gravitated to the cities for fair, just treatments of getting paid from the South. In some cities, it's called Chinatown because people gathered their resources and their culture. African Americans had a reputation in this city as a place that they can come. And we elected strong, good leadership, we thought. And it's very important. I happened to see the program yesterday about crime. I didn't intend to watch it. I think Miss Keisha Waits did a fantastic job. But I heard the comments of Mr. Bond. But I saw the citizens who spoke up. And I see citizens who came down here in the rain and the cold today, Mr. Wan. They wanted to speak. They wanted someone to say something for them that they know who's a friend. And you're a representative. And on that wall, it states what the policy is. It probably won't be up there next week because, Mr. Wan, you are Georgia Tech graduate. You, with all the development that's going on and the building that's going on in this city that Georgia Tech is a party to, people are being pushed out of this city. What is the impact of the legislation that you passing if you don't have the heart in the mind to listen to the people? You're going to change that, and you're going to take pride to say you're the only committee that does it, that deny it? Mr. Wan, you was here. Mr. Shook, you was here. Mr. Bond, you was here. You know there's been a rollback of people being able to engage the issues that come up in this city. The council, the committee just before this, they're talking about rails, and they're talking about trails and streetcars. You know what they're shaking their head in? That maybe they're going to have to just rip out the streetcar. And people stood at that podium and said, Mrs. Scott with Marta stated, there's nothing that bringing streetcars to this city is going to help transportation or good for Atlanta. Myself and other people talked about the cost of it. And Mr. Wan, you're cutting out the opportunity for us not to make those mistakes again. You're a Georgia Tech graduate. You should have respect for the citizens who come down here. Georgia Tech is a big player in this country. And the
Mr.
African
Shakir.
Americans who be on these committees, please say something.
right.
You don't
Thank
have to
you,
go
Mr.
along
Shakir.
with. Please measure what has happened
Mr.
in this
Shakir,
city.
thank you for your
Measure
comments.
the fact that we have been left out and cut out when it comes to public comments.
Mr. Shakir, we appreciate your feedback.
I'm just
and-
letting you know.
And I received
And
that, and
if
I
you
received that.
respect
Your,
that,
your 3 minutes
please
is
give
up.
consideration to Mr. Bond. You should not sit
All
there
right.
and allow this to go
Thank you,
to
Mr.
happen.
Shakir. We appreciate your
And
comments.
Mr. Shook, you
All
know
right,
what your
that
children said when they went to
concludes-
San Francisco.
that
They were shocked
concludes
about
our-
the property
oh, wow.
that occurred that they saw. Don't let that happen to Atlanta.
All
Do
right.
not take away the people's voices.
Thank you, Mr. Shakir. All right, with that, that concludes our public comment. We'll now move to communications. First item is 22-C, 5187, communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing is Mr. Brand here? I don't see him. All right, next. All right, next item is ordinances for second read, 22-01883. If Mr. Brand does show up, if someone will signal me. An ordinance by Finance Executive Committee on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2023 Parks North Impact Fee Fund budget by transferring remaining balances from and to the accounts as listed in Exhibit A for the purpose of unrestricting amounts from various projects to be utilized for future projects and for other purposes. I believe that Mr. Voss is coming to speak to this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of council. This ordinance unrestricts funds from projects previously allocated. These projects have either been canceled or they have expired or the contracts themselves have expired. I believe that in this particular case, this contract actually was completed in 17. So this will allow these funds to go back to the Impact Fee North account to be allocated to other projects. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding.
All right, questions or comments for Mr. Voss? All right, there's a motion from Shook to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Winston. It's been properly moved and seconded. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The item is adopted. Next item is 22-01884, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to ratify services rendered in connection with Agreement FC 7611, Citywide Pest Control with Orkin, Inc., to authorize the mayor or his designee to enter into Amendment Number 4 to add the Atlanta Department of Transportation under the agreement and to extend the term of the agreement on a month-to-month basis for a period of up to 1 year, beginning retroactively December 12, 2022 through December 11, 2023, or until RFP S123005, Citywide Pest Control Services is awarded and the associated agreement fully executed, whichever occurs first, on behalf of the Departments of Enterprise Asset Management, Atlanta Police, Atlanta Department of Transportation, Aviation, Corrections, Fire, Parks and Recreation, Public Works, and Watershed Management, in an amount not to exceed $459,040.00. All contracted work be charged to and paid from the fund department account and function activity listed herein and for other purposes. Commissioner Santil.
Good afternoon, committee and chairman. Remy Santil, Commissioner of Department of Enterprise Asset Management. The purposes of legislation is as stated, to enter into Amendment Number 4 for citywide pest control services with Orkin, to add the Departments of Transportation under the agreement, and to extend the terms of the agreement to a month-to-month basis for a period up to 1 year or until the new award is associated fully executed. The legislation for the new award contract has been submitted to the Law Department on December 12th, yesterday, and the legislation to award the new agreement will be submitted in Cycle 3, which will be in this committee on January 25th, to be approved on February 3rd.
All right, questions for the commissioner? I do have one. So you said the award has been made and now the contract is being hopefully finalized, and that is from the August 2022 RFP
Correct.
process? Okay. All right, other questions for the commissioner? Motion from Shook to approve. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Winston. Let's open the vote, please. 6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved. Next item, 22-01885, ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to ratify services rendered in connection with the property management agreement with JMG Realty, Inc. for management of the property and facilities at 133 Trinity Avenue, beginning June 30th, 2022, through the execution of the First Amendment to the agreement, to authorize the mayor or his designee to execute the First Amendment to the property management agreement, to extend the term of the agreement for 1 year, retroactively effective from June 30th, 2022 through June 30th, 2023, on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management, in accordance with the agreement's existing compensation schedule and for other purposes. Commissioner.
Yes, this legislation is as stated. Reason being, the original agreement between the city and JMG Realty expired on March 28th. A 90-day extension was authorized by the CPO, giving the agreement a new expiration date of June 29th. That extension expired. However, the management services were still provided by GMG under the terms and conditions of the original management agreement.
All right, so how is this, I mean, if it did, even with the extension, expire in June 2029, how is this just now coming to us?
Well, we are putting it back out for bid, so we're just using this time to extend it so while the RFP goes out.
So has the RFP gone out?
It's going out on the first cycle. We're getting that now on the first cycle as well.
So was the first cycle of January, you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I'm managing the gap here.
Next year.
What was that? Yeah, so I'm managing the gap here, expired on June 30th, and we were operating for essentially 6 months. Was it a matter of putting the RFP together, or is it, if the RFP hasn't even gone out yet?
Right, so this extension is extending it so that we can get everything together.
I understand, I got that piece. I understand why we're doing this retroactively, but help me understand, who missed this?
We missed this, so we are trying to correct this with this.
Okay, all right. Questions for the commissioner? I'll make a motion to approve, seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The item is approved. Thank you. Next item is 22-01886, ordinance by Councilmember Byron D. Amos to amend the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Chapter 114, Personnel, Article 4, Classification Plan, Section 114, 418, Family Leave, to change the time off with pay for primary caregivers from 6 weeks to 10 weeks and for other purposes. The administration and the author have agreed to hold this paper, so I'll make that motion. Can I get a second, please? Seconded by Shook. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. That item will be held. All right, so colleagues, without objection, I'm going to take items 6, 9, and 10 together as they are carry forward transfers. First one is 22-01888, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier authorizing a donation of an amount not to exceed $13,500.00 from the District 4 carry forward account to the Atlanta Police Foundation to assist with the funding of license plate readers and surveillance cameras to be installed in Council District 4 and for other purposes. Item number 9 is 22-01895, an ordinance by Council Members Westmoreland, Hillis, Faroki, Lewis, Waits, Bakhtiari, Shook, and Dozier authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $19,000.00 to Morehouse College to support the Larry Dingle Memorial Scholarship and for other purposes. And number 10, which is 22-01896, ordinance by Council Members Westmoreland, Amos, Faroki, Lewis, Waits, and Bakhtiari authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $9,000.00 to Morehouse College to support the Dwayne E. Hurd Memorial Scholarship and for other purposes. Any comments or questions on those? Councilmember Dozier.
For item number 9, I know we're taking these as a block, but item number 9, the donation to Morehouse College. I know the author, nope, never mind, it is reflected on the paper. I just want to make sure I was reflected as a co-sponsor. Disregard. Second.
All right, there's a motion from Shook to approve all 3, seconded by Dozier. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. Those three items are approved. Next item is number 7, 22-01893, an ordinance by council members Marcy Collier Overstreet and Matt Westmoreland authorizing the City of Atlanta to transfer certain real properties located within the city, Fulton County tax parcel ID numbers listed, and DeKalb County tax parcel ID number listed, to the Atlanta Independent School System by quitclaim deed, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the city to execute such quitclaim deeds and all other necessary documents to effectuate the intent of this ordinance, to waive certain provisions of the Procurement and Real Estate Code, City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Article 10, and for other purposes. Mr. Humphreys, if you'll come and tell us about this paper, please.
Hi, everyone. Josh Humphreys. As many of you probably know, there's been longstanding deeds issues between APS and the City of Atlanta. Lots of properties that the school became an independent school system, city held, and have been active schools or were like in the rights of the school, but we've held deeds on this. So it's lasted a very long time. And thanks to the leadership of this mayor, and I would credit a lot of the work of the Housing Strike Force that pulled APS, MARTA, and others together to do this. One of the outcomes of the first meeting is working together to do common sense cleanup on the deeds and then do next order of business. So this first paper are the most straightforward elements of it. There are a lot of deed issues. There's probably a little over a dozen of them around the city that need to get cleaned up. This is the first ones that didn't have any right-of-way issues or anything that was kind of odd or complex about it. So we put those in a package, and this would be a quick claim of those deeds. We are working now with departments across the city, Remy and his team in Deem, as well as the DOT team, because there's some right-of-way issues on the others. There'll be a second batch that'll come sometime early next year, but wanted to show real progress and clean up the ones that were straightforward. So that's what this is, ones that are very clearly properties that should be transferred over to APS.
So with this paper, what's the balance left in terms of the number of deeds that you still have to clean up before we can transfer?
I believe that there are 5 properties. Now, number of parcels vary, right? Because some of these, like Carver High School, for instance, has several parcels that get in there.
Sure.
But there's about 5 properties that are left over on this that will take just a little bit more time. And when those come next year, there will also be like right-of-way abandonment papers and stuff that go along with that. So it'll be a whole package.
And after those 5, are there any more that are actually in dispute?
No, there are some that maybe will come into like a conversation around swaps that maybe that will be a part of all of this, and that's really part of the participation of the strike force about properties that could be made available for affordable housing or other uses.
So yeah, I'm glad to see we're finally moving these out and putting this to bed, so to speak. All right, there's a motion from Shook to approve, seconded by Bakhtiari. Let's open the vote, please.
Shook and Bakhtiari. The vote is open. The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved. All right, next item is 22-01894. We have a substitute for that in your packet. It doesn't change the caption. I'll read it in, and then I think Councilmember Bakhtiari made the motion to bring it forward, but it's 22-01894, an ordinance by Councilmembers Juan, Boone, Overstreet, Hillis, Bond, Westmoreland, Winston, Faroki, Amos, Dozier, Bakhtiari, Shook, and Lewis, amending the City of Atlanta fiscal year 2023 budget to include an additional cost of living adjustment, or COLA, for all permanent full-time employees, excluding temporary, part-time, contract, and seasonal employees, and for other purposes. Councilmember Bakhtiari has made the motion to bring it forward. It's seconded by Dozier. Let's open the vote to bring it forward.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. The substitute is now before us. CFO Bala.
Yes. Good afternoon, council members. Mohammed Bala, Chief Financial Officer. What this paper essentially does is it allows us to amend the FY22 budget by pulling money from the reserve balance to fund the 1.5% increase in COLA across all city employees, as well as the additional 7% and 5% for Atlanta Police Department as well as corrections personnel. As stated last FEC, the city's fiscal year 22 financials outperformed our expectations, and in commitment with the administration as well as council's comments during the budget development process, the city would like to extend the COLA allocation by that amount, and this essentially funds all of the departments proportionally so that the funding can be in place for the personnel increases.
All right, questions for CFO Bala? Go ahead, then I have one. Yeah.
So this will be, the percentage of the COLA will be factored into our FY24 budget?
No, this is for the FY23 budget.
Got it, okay.
I want to walk through timing because I know a lot of employees will have timing questions. So we passed this today. The intent is that it would go into effect for those impacted employees at the first payroll in January, the pay date is what date?
The intent is that the allocations will reflect on the first work day of January.
Okay.
So that first work day of January, employees will see the respective salary increase that will then be reflected in subsequent paychecks.
Okay.
So the first paycheck in January, I think, has, I can confirm, but it might be 6 or 7 work days in that one. Okay. And the subsequent check in January will have a fully reflected in it.
Okay, so those people that their first payroll reflects the last week in December and the first week in January or whatever,
Right.
They'll have the increase for the portion that was represented in the 2023 dates, correct? Okay. And then is that first pay date, I guess would be the 6th, or is it the 6th of?
I believe so.
Okay. I just want us to know, because invariably we are going to get questions when folks get their first deposit and it doesn't match what their expectations
sure.
were. Oh, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Danielle Nichols, Deputy Commissioner, Department of Human Resources. So to speak to the first pay period in which the impact will be reflected, the first paycheck in January is January 13th, and that pay period begins December 2nd through January 4th. So essentially 3 days will be covered in that first pay period.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to find out. So, other questions or comments on this? We do have an amendment from Councilmember Waits. She'd like to add her name to the paper.
Yes, sir.
All right, so motion from Waits, second by Shook. Sorry, he said it first. He did. Let's open that vote, please, to amend.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, 7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The item is amended. The amended paper is substitute is before us. I'll make the motion to approve on substitute as amended, seconded by Shook. He did say it first. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved on substitute as amended. All right, we've already dispensed with number 9 and number 10. That takes us to resolutions. 22-R4797, a resolution by council members Lewis, Bond, Westmoreland, Winston, Faroki, Amos, Dozier, Bakhtiari, Juan, Boone, and Overstreet, urging the 118th Congress to reintroduce and pass the Youth Promise, Prison Reduction Through Opportunities, Mentoring, Intervention, Support, and Education Act to fund and support programs and initiatives that will assess, develop, and implement evidence-based practices to deter juvenile delinquency, youth violence, and criminal street gang activity, and for other purposes. Any questions or comments from any of my colleagues on this paper? Okay, Councilmember Waits has made a motion to amend to add her name as a sponsor, seconded by Bakhtiari. Let's open that vote to amend, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The amended paper is before us. Councilmember Bakhtiari pre-filed a motion to approve as amended, and then Councilmember Winston pre-filed his second, so let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. That item is approved as amended. All right, item number 12, there is a substitute. I'll read the caption, which does change, and make the motion, bring it forward. This is 22-R4800, a resolution by Councilmember Alex Wan, is substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to refund customers for overpayments to water and sewer accounts in an amount of $68,001.79. All funds to be charged to and paid from fund department, organization, and account numbers listed and for other purposes. Motion to bring forward the substitutes by Shook, seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The substitute is before us.
Approval on substitute.
Motion from Shook to approve on substitute, seconded by Dozier. Let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved on substitute. Next item, 22-R4833. A resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into renewal number 2 with Frasca and Associates LLC for FC 10779 financial advisor services to the City of Atlanta Department of Aviation for individual bond transactions effective January 31, 2023 through January 30th, 2024. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from each bond transaction and for other purposes. CFO Ball, I believe you were going to speak to this.
Treasurer Knight will speak to it.
Good afternoon, council members. Courtney Knight, Chief of Treasury, Debt and Investments. This is the final renewal of a contract for our financial advisor at the airport. We have 2 financial advisors, one that's specific to the airport, and the other one is all of our other credits, watershed, GO, et cetera. This is the final extension for Frasca and Associates. We wanted to extend this contract for this final year because we're in consideration of some additional financings at the airport.
All right, questions for Mr. Knight? Motion from Shook to approve, seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open.
Dozier's aye.
The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved. Thank you. All right, next item. Actually, this takes us now to dual referreds. The first one to come to us is 22-R4522, which came out favorable on substitute out of public safety. I'll read the new caption in. It's 22-R4522. Resolution by Councilmember Amir Faroki is substituted by Public Safety Legal Administration Committee, authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute special procurement agreement number listed, Center for Diversion and Services Operator on behalf of the City of Atlanta pursuant to Section 2-1191.1 with Grady Memorial Hospital Corporation to serve as operator for the Center for Diversion Services, effective on January 16, 2023, for a term of 1 year, with 2 two-year renewal options in an amount not to exceed $1,465,970.00 for the first year, and add to the scope of work to serve as medical and behavioral health screening provider, commencing in the second year if the renewal option is exercised and approved. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from the fund department, organization, and account number listed herein and for other purposes. So we don't need to bring the substitute before because that's what got referred to us, correct? Okay. Any questions or comments?
Correct, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Linda. Any questions or comments from my colleagues on this motion from Shook to approve, seconded by Bakhtiari? Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved. All right, next item is item number 18, 22-01239. There is a substitute for this. I think I can't. All right, 22-01239, an ordinance by council members Bond, Amos, Lewis, Hillis, Shook, Bakhtiari, Winston, Faroki, Dozier, Overstreet, Westmoreland, and Waits, as amended by Community Development Human Services Committee, and as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing a reimbursement to the Post 1 at-large council member in an amount not to exceed $20,000.00 to support a citywide initiative with HelloFresh and its community partners in Georgia, Second Helpings of Atlanta, and Pratt Industries to provide free meals to the City of Atlanta residents facing food insecurities, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to pay the reimbursement amount from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. I'll make the motion to bring the substitute forward. Seconded by Bakhtiari. Let's open that, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The substitute is before us. I'll defer to Mr. Bond. I have heard from the administration. I believe we're holding this. I want to confirm that with Mr. Bond.
Yes, we're holding this while Finance finds the appropriate account stream.
All right, so I'll take that as a motion to hold by Bond, seconded by Winston. If there's no further discussion, let's open that vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. That item is held. All right, that takes us to papers held in committee. We have 3 coming off. First one is 23, which is 22-R4035, a resolution by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency for the operation and management of Cafe 55, located at City Hall, and a smoothie snack bar located in the City of Atlanta Employment Wellness Center on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management and the Department of Human Services and for other purposes. I'll move to file. This is now redundant. Seconded by Shook. Let's open the vote, please, to file.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is filed. All right, next item to come off is item 26, 22-R4250, resolution by Councilmember Mary Norwood authorizing a donation from the 2022 Moving Atlanta Forward Council Member Discretionary Account in a total amount not to exceed $50,000.00 to Chastain Horse Park Limited, a Georgia nonprofit corporation, in order to support its mission of empowering riders of all abilities through life-changing relationships with horses and for other purposes. This one is now ready as the bond proceeds have been received and accounted for. I'm not sure what the right word is. I'll make the motion to approve. It's seconded by Shook. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved. And the last one to come off of held is number 31, 22-R4694, resolution by Finance Executive Committee urging the 2022-23 regular session of the Georgia General Assembly to support the City of Atlanta's 2023 legislative package and for other purposes. I'm going to ask Ms. Kenyatta Mitchell to come up. As she's doing that, I'll make a motion to amend the legislation to attach the package itself. Seconded by Winston.
Second.
Let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open.
It's birthday. Couple of birthday presents in there.
The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The amended paper is before us. Ms. Mitchell, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Kenyatta Mitchell, Director of Intergovernmental Affairs from Mayor Dickens' office. First, in addition to the mayor, I'd like to thank my partner in crime, DeAndre Eberhardt, who works in the office with me. He is my Deputy Director of Intergovernmental Affairs. I want to thank Josh, who actually just left, Chanel, who works with Josh, Theo in my office, as well as Marcy, our GR consultant, for getting this package together and helping me work through this process. The first 3 items are no surprise to anyone. The first is forced de-annexation. We, as the City of Atlanta, are going to fight any legislation that will de-annex or provide oversight responsibilities to any section of the City of Atlanta. The proposed City of Buckhead would not reduce crime. It would ruin the brand of the state of Georgia. It would ruin the brand of the city of Atlanta. We, both the city and the state, would be sued by bonding agencies, and it will affect our ability to fund transformational events. We are all watching the World Cup now. It will affect anything, World Cup, any any SEC championship, any event that we would have in the city of Atlanta will be affected by de-annexation of any part of the city. This will be a dangerous precedent that will create higher and duplicate costs and create chaos in our public schools. So hopefully we don't have to come back next year and talk about this, but for this year, de-annexation is number one on our list. The second is a state takeover of the airport. We oppose any action that seeks to change the ownership, operations, or governance of Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. This includes the creation of any entity that would create oversight, responsibilities for the government and operations. Uncertainty is not how we became the best airport in the world, and uncertainty is not how we became the biggest airport in the world. Each of these is a distraction, and again, I hope we don't have to bring these back to you again next year. The final and the bad three is the criminalization of homelessness. We have folks in the General Assembly who think, and I want to say this out loud to everybody, that being homeless is not a crime. Criminalization is counterproductive to ending homelessness. A criminal record adds to an already difficult situation of finding employment, getting housing, and being eligible for any services. This adds to an already overburdened criminal justice system. By detaining individuals who have not done a serious crime. One night in jail costs 3 times the amount of a shelter visit. The criminal justice system is also not equipped to handle folks who are homeless. They are equipped to handle folks who are criminals. So that's in my top 3 of the dirty 3 that we're going to go after, and hopefully we don't have to come back and get those again. Now I want to talk about some of the things that are going to move the city of Atlanta forward. The first is the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So the mayor has pledged to build 20,000 affordable houses, attainable houses to folks in the city of Atlanta. The city has appropriated $100 million for this. Yet, the state of Georgia is only appropriating $3 million to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for the entire state. So when I talk about the entire state, I'm saying Atlanta, Savannah, Macon, Athens, et cetera, and all of our rural partners. We ask not necessarily for a certain dollar amount, but a consideration of increasing that number. If we all believe that attainable affordable housing is important, then we need to put forth some additional funding. And when I say we, I mean the state of Georgia. I think the city of Atlanta is doing its fair share, and we would love to have help. The next is impact waivers for affordable housing. So impact fee waivers, I apologize, for affordable housing. Reducing impact fees for affordable housing projects would allow municipalities to reduce the burden on developers and further incentivize much-needed housing that will be more attainable for our citizens. The requested change to state law that we're looking for is to allow the option of waiving or reducing impact fees without the jurisdiction being forced to replace that funding. The next item is to increase GO bonds, and this is for our friend Mohammed Bala in the corner who suggested this one. Our ability to issue GO bonds without referendum has been capped at $4 million since 1968. So since most of y'all were not around in 1968, and before you asked, neither was I. Okay, sorry, Chair. So for everyone who was not around 1968, in 1968, the average cost of a home was $15,000, gas was 34 cents, and the city's budget was $40 million. We're all getting punched drunk. That was 10% of our budget in the city of Atlanta. In 2023, the general fund budget was over $730 million. 10% of that would be $73 million. Yet we're not asking for $73 million. We're merely asking if we could go without a referendum for up to $35 million. As common sense as this sounds, this is going to be a heavy lift, but we're going to put it on our agenda. This is a biennial session, so we'll have 2 years to try to get this across the finish line. The next is a slight issue that we had this session. So House Bill 1405, we need to make a small zoning provision, law revision. So House Bill 1405 require public hearings on permits that traditionally only required staff review. This means right now that the city must hold public hearings on over 200 additional SAP applications that come before the city of Atlanta. The development community is hindered by this, and it also, because it adds additional time to the SAP process. For the audience that's viewing, SEP can be as simple as a home addition or demolition. This has the undesirable effect of making these projects cost prohibitive for our residents. City staff is also hindered by this process because they must use staff resources to advertise, prepare, and staff these hearings. It wastes countless hours of time without the intended transparency that this original legislation intended. This will be a simple cleanup bill. We spoke to the author about it, and she's willing to introduce that cleanup. So hopefully we can get this done before the end of the session, and we can go back to our original process for SAP. The final two I'm working on in tandem with MARTA. The first is to authorize ATL-DOT, or the Atlanta Department of Transportation Commissioner, the power to create designated transit lanes. This will help with our BRT system that we're implementing. These lanes will be dedicated for public transportation. The second is to authorize ATL-DOT and the City of Atlanta to use camera enforcement in those designated lanes. This will allow buses to go through those areas without having additional cars in the way. This is the end of the presentation, but I do want to say one quick thing before I end. I want to be very clear that the items in this document are not the only pieces of legislation that we'll be pursuing. We're going to be working on any good piece of legislation with any government, not-for-profit, or corporation that will further the goals of the mayor and the City of Atlanta. So this list was curated with the understanding that we're going to have a very tough legislative session. There will be 53 new legislators. We'll have a new lieutenant governor and a new speaker. And we must introduce ourselves as a city. Cities in certain circles are not seen as the positive economic generators that we are, and we have to tell that story. So I will stop now for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. All right, we'll start with Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Mitchell. I realize the clock is running out in terms of my ability to say I'm a new council member, so, but I do have a question. I know these sorts of legislative items before council are pretty routine and pretty regular. Do we have a similar process in place for any sort of legislation we're seeking at the federal level? I know you and I have talked offline about things that have come up from our communities around noise barriers on I-20, or looking for the administration to apply for raise grants to help with railroad crossings. Is there a similar process related to that to build out a legislative packet for federal legislative affairs or lobbying, or are those just continual conversations that we should continue to have with you and the administration?
Those are really continuing conversations. So let's start with the earmarks that you talked about initially. The earmark process is new every year with the brand new Congress that comes in. So what we can do is we can have conversations once we get guidance on what they're looking for to determine what would be the best earmark items. Now, when it comes to raise grants, those NOFOs come out all the time. So we get raise grants, mega grants, grants for mental health services, homelessness, et cetera. Those things also change on an annual basis, so it'd be difficult for me to come before you early in advance and talk about what we would like. Those are ongoing conversations. Typically, I have those conversations with department heads, but I am absolutely open to having conversations with y'all as well, so just let me know what that process should look like in the future. I mean, you call yourself a new council member still. I call myself a new department head, so we can work this out together.
Well, at the very least, I'm in my first year, so once I'm in my second year, I feel like I'm supposed to know everything. But
you'll know it all.
Mr. Chair, I yield.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Well, each year in public service is like dog years. So one of them is 7. So you've been here a long time.
I've been here a long time.
No, well, one, I'm glad to hear about the priorities. Obviously, criminalizing homelessness is horrific. Further punishing people for lack of housing stock or rental cap or rental assistance or anything else is pretty deplorable. So one of the questions I do have, though, I'm happy to see the pieces around ATL DOT, I was curious, is there any opportunity to discuss with the state, or do we have any lobbying opportunities to discuss the fact that with deaths related to GDOT, obviously I have multiple state highways running through my district. We have a number of pedestrian fatalities with no actions or response. Is there anything that we're able to do with the state to discuss if our job is to, as public servants across the board, including at the state level, do we have any opportunity to be able to supersede them when no action is taken when it comes to protecting our constituents?
Supersede is a big word.
I know, I shouldn't have used that word. Are we able to do anything?
Yes, I like that word better. So let me put that in two different buckets.
Okay.
The first is a legislative bucket, right? So legislative items have a time limit. We start with the General Assembly in January and hopefully end in April. What you're asking for are city to department conversations that we can have on an ongoing basis. So there's no need for us to just have that during the General Assembly. We can have that anytime.
Yes, okay. Given the attempts to have those departmental conversations and them not going anywhere, I was curious if we could do more, but I look forward to pulling you into those conversations so you can help force action or conversations.
Force is a hard word as well, but thank you.
And I'll give Jamal a call, so thanks, Kenyatta.
Bring in the husband.
Other questions or comments? I wanted to echo I appreciate seeing the homelessness issue in there, and I think it's smart to couple it with the housing affordability piece. I just want to make sure that we keep on our radar that the other leg of that stool is also services, so that, that those that are housing insecure oftentimes are afflicted with other challenges that we have to help find funding and resources to address as well, or otherwise we can't sustain their housing if we're able to find. So it's just kind of one of those circles we got to make sure we're looking at all arcs of the circle. The other question, well, that was a statement. The other question I had that really more impacts me and Council Bakhtiari is potential cityhood movements within unincorporated DeKalb. So I don't know if you've heard anything, if this is when things get, I'm not as familiar with the pre-filing process as my colleague, Councilmember Waits, is, but any rumblings about that you're aware of? That you and I spoken several months ago, but I didn't know if anything had transpired since.
So let me start with your first statement, and then we'll go to the second question. So I just want to add a little additional color to the criminalization of homelessness. One of the things the General Assembly wanted to do, which was particularly egregious, was they wanted to not only go against the city of Atlanta, but all of our nonprofit partners. So when we provide money for nonprofits to help our homeless citizens, they wanted to go after those nonprofits and reduce their income as well. They did this, ironically, during the Christmas, Ramadan, I think, and Passover all at the same time when they wanted to do this, which was particularly evil, I feel. I shouldn't say evil, but I feel evil. So I just wanted to put that out there. It was going after all of our nonprofit partners, which is really unfortunate. To get to your second question about services, the first question kind of gets to your second question as well, which is, if we reduce the amount of money that providers were able to receive, then they're less likely to leave homelessness and become additional burdens on society that they really shouldn't be. So I hope that answers your question, or is there something else? I apologize.
Well, no, I feel like there's been a lot of discussion and movement, quite frankly, by the state assembly in terms of mental health in the last couple of years, and I feel like that's encouraging because, if there is appetite and interest for that, they also go hand in hand with what we're trying to do and being able to help the housing insecure. So I just hope that that you did answer it. I'm just kind of underscoring that component of it, in addition to housing stock, and then the decriminalization of the piece, because it's all tied together, right?
Yeah, so that's where we get to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and waiving the impact fees, because we are de-incentivizing affordable housing when we require people to pay impact fees for those developments. They are actually unburdening the system by building. So not to bemoan the topic or the subject, but that's it.
Nothing on cityhood? No rumblings that you're aware of?
Apologies. There's always rumblings on cityhood. So we have lots of folks who have pushed out different cities. I I have been around the General Assembly. Next year will be my 21st year. I can't believe I've been there that long. But my 21st year working with the General Assembly, I would say for the last 10 years, there's been a city a year that they've been proposing. The issue is with these cityhood initiatives is that they feel like very good ideas until you have to pay for the services. So I think there's been a bit of a brakes on some of those initiatives. I will say what's interesting for the city of Atlanta is a lot of folks, when those cityhood initiatives pop up, they want to run to an established city. Us, Brookhaven, a few other cities that are adjacent to unincorporated areas. We always keep our eyes on those things. There have been lots of discussions lately. I'd like to see where those things land. Again, we have a lot of new legislators, so they have to get their arms around what they want to do as far as municipalities.
And that's good. Thank you. Councilmember Bakhtiari.
You sure you want to cut yourself off?
Oh, yeah, I am.
Okay. 21 years, Kenyatta's aging in reverse.
Right.
So
It's all internal.
I'm just curious, is there not an understanding that jail is literally the most expensive option out of actually investing and caring about an individual and trying to reintroduce them into the economy and attempt to actually give them housing? And I don't know, the insane idea of a renter's cap or something of that nature so we can actually keep people in their homes. Is there just a failure to understand that?
Well, let me
Just
say,
like there was a failure to understand that heartbeats don't happen at 6 weeks?
okay, so I'm not going to adjust that one. But I will say this. We have a lot of folks who come to the General Assembly from different walks of life. Many times, the first time they encounter homelessness is when they come to the General Assembly in Atlanta. They want to get rid of the issue so they don't see it. And the easiest way to get rid of something so you don't see it is jail. If you want to fix the problem, and that's part of what my job is and the job of my government affairs consultants, is to have a conversation about that. They don't know it's 3 times more expensive. They don't know that jail makes it difficult for people to get substance abuse treatment. They don't understand that putting, folks who have issues with claustrophobia or whatever they have going on in an enclosed space makes things worse. So part of it is education. It's really helping them understand that there are other ways to get to a desired result. But unfortunately, it takes a little bit longer, but it's a lot more sustainable.
Understood. I'll be happy to assist with that education. I'll reference my best friend Google and see what I can find. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Dozier.
Just to piggyback off that line of questioning on the education piece, I know new legislators typically have to go through Carl Vinson Institute before they start actually legislating. Have we talked with them, or is there an opportunity for, nudge them in terms of helping them help our statewide legislators better understand these issues in a way that doesn't drop the hammer on the city when we try to do something that is
So part of the issue.
modest or progressive?
I apologize.
No, you're good, sorry.
So part of the issue is we have to counteract years of what they believe are facts, right? So they believe in their mind that cities don't want to do anything about folks who are homeless. They think that, they have lots of perceptions about what cities believe and what cities do and how cities appropriate resources. So it's really educating them on introducing them to the city of Atlanta and introducing them to the way in which the city of Atlanta does business. That's a long-term process. I wish I could go to Carl Vinson and sit down and change minds that quickly, but it's a daily struggle. And every time the news says something contrary to what I say, we got to start from ground zero again. So it's a process.
Thank you. I yield.
Okay. If there's the one last thing I will say is, I know that the city and you and not even before you were with the city have really been helping fight the fight, but I think I speak for many of my colleagues on council, especially now, given the composition of the new council, is that the fight for equality and inclusion continues. The day after the signing of the Respect for Marriage Act up in Washington, I think it underscores the importance of that, both nationally and locally. So as Councilmember Bakhtiari offered to help any way she can with certain issues, that there are a lot of us that are willing to help.
I promise I'll actually be helpful.
As you continue to play defense on that, on our behalf. So wanted to throw that out there.
No, thank you. I would say, if you know a legislator, adopt a legislator and have conversations with them. I do not frown upon that. Thank you. Is that it?
Other further comments on this? All right.
Thank you and move for approval. Second.
There's a motion from Dozier to approve as amended, seconded by Bakhtiari. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved as amended.
Thank you.
Rachel. Okay, I believe that takes, no. We have to go back to the communication. The candidate cannot be here today, so I'm going to read it in and we're just going to hold it. And that's 22-C 5187, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing Mr. David Brand to serve as a member of the City of Atlanta Defined Benefit Pension Plan Investment Board in the category of independent chair. This appointment is for a term of 5 years. I'll move to hold. Seconded by Shook. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. That item is held. I believe that takes care of all of our legislative items. Oh, 7 yeas, 0 nays. Okay. So that before we just opened up for general remarks, obviously this is the last committee meeting of the year. Colleagues, Ms. Lindo sent out a recap of the goals and objectives for this year. I want to say we did really well. There are a couple, mostly HR items that we are going to potentially recommend to the next Finance Executive Committee to pick back up in 23. I think a lot of that just had to do with the transition of the HR Commissioner. But that is there for your review. But again, I wanted to acknowledge that. Also, there was distributed a white paper from the Department of Finance on conservation tax option analysis. So I just encourage everybody to take a look at that and let CFO Ball or his team know if you have any questions. Okay, that's all in terms of announcements. Any just general comments or remarks for the good of the order? Mr. Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say I recognize that while this is our last Finance Committee of the year, committee meeting of the year, this is also my last Finance Committee meeting, at least for the foreseeable future.
Bye.
But just want to say I appreciated everything I've learned from you and from you, Vice Chair Shook. And I look forward to, even though yesterday's consumer price index numbers are positive, that y'all will continue to carry the torch on asking inflation-related questions to our city department. So I appreciate you all, and I've enjoyed my time on this committee.
I want to take this moment also of thanking those members that, all of y'all, first of all, for being a great Finance Committee meeting for this year. I think we've gotten a lot of compliments in general about how much we've gotten accomplished, starting with the budget process and how smooth that was and how everybody leaned into the work and all the hard work that both the administration puts in, but that we're expected to put in as well for that. But then also just, grinding through the transaction and papers that come before us, asking the right questions, raising issues, and just thinking about policy. I think that's been the most fun for me as chair this year. Is just we've had a lot of great policy conversations that I know will continue on. Want to thank the members who are on this committee for this year that will not be returning next year, and that's Council Members Bond, Dozier, and Waits. We thank you for your valuable input. We know that you'll be continuing to watch from the other committees that you are and infusing your perspectives back to us as appropriate. But I didn't know if Mr. Bond or Ms. Waits wanted to say anything before we. Anybody else have any comments before we adjourn? Mr. Bond.
Always a pleasure to serve on the Finance Committee whenever you can. I've had several iterations and tours on it, and appreciate the opportunity to serve with all of you. But I will leave you with this comment, a quote from Obi-Wan Kenobi, circa May 1977. If you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you can ever imagine. I need to be excused.
Wow, not sure how we top that if anybody wants to try. All right, if not, then we stand adjourned for 2022. Thank you very much.